It's the coronavirus time. And how are you doing with fear and distress generally? I'm aware that there's kind of a huge amount of fear and distress around the world right now, and I'm no stranger to it. In fact, the other night I woke up, in fact, most nights I'm waking up way too early and finding it hard to get back to sleep. I'm kind of okay in the days, but I'm often not sleeping very well through the latter part of the night. And a couple of days ago, that really got to a strong point. I had a horrible night, and I woke up, lay awake for a long time, way too much going through my head, trying to meditate while lying down, and I'm too tired to meditate. You know that feeling where, like, maybe if you've got a meditation practice, you're too tired to meditate, and yet you really need to fall asleep. It's like you're too tired. I was too tired to meditate properly. I couldn't concentrate, and yet I was too wired to fall asleep. And caught in that awkward state, I got up and I did my practice for a while, and I decided to make it an offering to you, so I could have something to give from this distressed place that I'm in, and do something useful with it, not just for myself, but as an offering. And it led me to think, I've been thinking a lot about fear and like how to deal with fear. And I've really spent my whole life dealing with fear one way or another. I got really terrified when I was very, very small. In fact, before I could talk, there were several things that happened that were so scary, they just kind of stayed with me as a sort of shock imprint in my nervous system. And that's my little trauma story, you know. And I think what's happening in the world right now is that, you know, most people are carrying some pretty traumatic stuff from their childhood. And if not that, then I would guess we're all carrying what is now understood to be traumatic imprints passed down through epigenetic processes that we've just come to kind of begin to understand in the last few years. And, you know, ancestral stuff that's passed down, you know, we're all imprinted with traumatic, scary, distressing events that are kind of undigested collectively and individually. And when something happens like this, as a sort of dramatic global event that is potentially distressing, our carried, undigested trauma gets activated. You know, I'm actually stuck in Australia. You know, you might think, oh, he's so lucky to be not stuck in a little apartment. He's got a nice tree behind him. It's true, I am. Although I've just got a repatriation flight and I'll be going back home to my little brick box in England in 10 days' time. But right now I am stuck in Australia. I was working here and my flights got cancelled, and I've been through quite a lot of feelings about that. But the very first time I came to Australia, I had just had an accident. I'd fallen off a ladder, really hurt my back so I could hardly walk, and broken my arm pretty badly in two places. My elbow was completely shattered, my wrist was shattered. And I already knew about my childhood trauma then, and I'd kind of felt, I'd done some workshops, you know, regression workshops and stuff, and I'd got a sense of it. I didn't just intellectually know about it. I'd encountered those imprints and memories to some extent. But what happened after that fall, when I broke my arm, that began with this trip in Australia, that was 10 years ago. And I am still kind of in the process of assimilating and integrating what came as a result of that fall. Because a trauma like that, like having a bad fall and a broken bone, that really was such an eye-opener to me. I had no idea what can happen when you're faced with a real current trauma, like we all are right now, loss of income, people dying, the stream of horrible news that is coming to us. You know, we've been getting that for years and years, but it's like ramped up so amazingly. And so something like this is happening now, just like when I had my fall, that opened up my very, very early childhood stuff in a way that I was completely unprepared for. Over the next few years, it sort of surged up through me, and many aspects of my kind of nicely ordered personality began to actually sort of crumble and fall to pieces. And as I said, I'm still in the process of integrating that opening in me that fall created. And this is happening for us collectively now. We are collectively being shaken open. And of course, a very natural response to that is to lock down, you know, as a society, but also as individuals. You know, our traumas are vibrated open, and oh no, you know, let's get it all back under control. And I don't think we can really do that healthily with our inherited and stored traumatic patterns that we each have a little piece of, and we collectively have a whole lot of. It needs to find a way to be digested and integrated and released. Didn't say that in the right order. Released and digested and integrated. And or maybe digested, released and integrated, that's better. Digested, released and integrated. So I want to sort of talk a little bit about how to do that, because not only is that inherited trauma, carried trauma that we're collectively experiencing happening, there's also, which is about the past, there's also a kind of stuff coming at us from the future, that we're scared of the future. We've been getting scared of the future for quite a while. I mean, I think we've always had this, humans have always had this, the end is nigh thing, but it's really like we've been getting very scared about the future in the last few years. And this happens and bang, it's like suddenly we're that, oh shit, you know, it really is happening. Like maybe the world really is going to start falling apart. Civilization really is going to crumble now. And the sort of shock, fear that we've been waiting to see come, we've been expecting it coming, is suddenly activated. So there's our fear of the future and our trauma from the past are both being woken up at this point. And it's full on for most of us, I think. And so how to deal with that? I want to give you some resources. So my top two, which I was going to put both jointly in first position of brilliantly, effectively useful resources, are your body and your breath. And they're so great because they're always there. They're like the best, most effective resources for dealing with fear and trauma. And they're also constantly readily available. So I guess you know this already. Just take a deep breath, right? To take a deep breath and let the exhale be longer than the inhale. That's the point where my exhale ended. I paid attention to the whole last wisp of it coming out. And that's helpful because it calms down. And so when you exhale the longer than the inhale and focus on the exhale, it helps the whole nervous system to calm down, which when we're overactivated is really helpful. Also, along with the breath, is the body. Even just to notice the body. And maybe that's hard for you to do, you know, if you're not used to having some kind of physically based meditation or movement practice, then that might be hard for you to do. One way that's easy is you just hold yourself, just with the breath, both together is good. Hold yourself. Put your hands on your belly. Don't know if you can see that in the camera. My hands are on my belly. A hand on the belly and a hand on the heart. Or that. You know. Oof. like instantly, as soon as I do that, I can feel my distress. It's the need to care for myself, right? We all need to care for ourselves. So just little things like that. Another way to pay attention to your body is to notice the weight of your body and sense of gravity. It can be really helpful to just lie down on the floor. Give your body to the ground. And that helps you, that takes me on to the next resource, which I would place in number 2, which is nature. If you're lucky enough, like me, to be able to be outside, have a garden, and sit outside, or walk outside, your one piece of exercise a day, go walk outside. And even if you're in a city, look at the sky. Whatever piece of nature you can find. Feel that sense of gravity. That's part of nature too. Give your body to gravity. Lie down on the floor, go for a walk, feel the footfalls of your feet. Find some way to notice your body and to be in nature and to take deep breaths. Those are 3 really good resources. And then I would say another one is human contact. And that's another reason why this is really hard right now. But you've probably got Skype. And have some conversations with people where maybe you ask in advance, can we have some moments of silence and just be with each other? Or can I speak to you for 5 minutes about what's really going on for me, how I really feel, and you just look at me. You just look at me and you don't say anything, you don't give me any advice. I don't want advice, just hear me. That's good too. Human contact. Hugs if you're allowed. You've got a partner or you're lucky enough to have children or something with you. And last but not least, I would say movement is a really good resource. Go walk or run or do some yoga or whatever your preferred method is of being in motion physically. But also, and this is where I've got a whole thing coming for you to guide you as to how you can use free expressive movement as a resource. And I'm lucky enough to be right near the beach here. Soon I'll be back in my little box where I have to do my movement practice indoors, unless I don't know if it's going to be okay in the park when I go home. We'll see. But you can do this in a small space at home. And you can use movement to release some of that pent-up energy that is all these feelings. It's just energy. Emotion is like energy in motion. Energy needs to have motion. The body, look at kids when they feel a lot, they express it immediately physically. They jump for joy, or they stamp in anger, or they shake in fear. We need to let the body release these feelings. And so the practice I'm going to offer you is quite advanced if you've never done anything like this before. If you're completely new to free expressive movement, I would advise you to get yourself to a class, or get yourself to, with anyone who does free movement, expressive movement, 5 rhythms or soul motion or movement medicine or Azul, or all of these kinds of practices. There's a lot of practices around, as well as mine, ZeroOne, and just learn how to move freely. But if you have some grounding of that, then maybe what I'm going to show you too will be useful. But what I'm going to show you is quite involved and big. But you can even just, it takes a while. You could you'd need at least 5 minutes. But even in one breath, you can just go like that. If you're really scared, just do that. Or if you're pissed off, stamp your feet. If you need to cry, maybe you can't cry, but you could still oh, damn it, my microphone's fallen off. You could still, if you need to cry, you could still throw yourself on the ground or on the sofa and find, don't just sort of sit still and sorry for yourself, kind of silent tears. If you can, at least let your body change shape, curl into a ball, or open and cry aloud to God, or whatever works for you to find something that moves. So you can do little bits like that, just letting yourself have a little If you're new to this, just try that. Just shake for one breath. And you do that 3 times, and you'll feel the difference. Any kind of movement makes a difference. So let's go look at the practice that I'm sharing with you. And I literally, many times I've made little videos of movement where I sort of tried to be impressive and make a good show and teach something. And this movement footage you're going to see is just me like in a state. As I told you at the beginning, I woke up in a state and I needed to move, and I thought I would try and make an offering out of it. So I brought this little camera down with its tripod and put it on the beach and set it recording and just did my practice in front of the camera as best I could. Not, sometimes I got a bit self-conscious, but mostly I did okay, and it was pretty real. So you just get to see me and my sort of frailty of my falling apart feelings and my distress and my fear, being in the middle of this whole thing, which is so big. And I'm not really afraid of getting the virus for myself. I'm afraid of what we're doing about it, to be honest. And I'm afraid of our kind of lockdown, tense recoil reaction to it, and that scares me. And I'm so glad I know how to dance and whack on some good tunes and celebrate sometimes. That's the other thing I'm doing, just whack on some good music and have a little party. Just it's midday here, and my partner and I, we just did that. We just whacked on a tune because we've been sitting on the computer for too long. And we just whacked on a tune for 10 minutes and just shook all that out and shouted at each other and danced and hugged and, whack on some music and dance, and find something to be grateful for, like go and like notice what's beautiful. So let's go down to the beach, but I would suggest you watch this whole thing before trying it yourself. Watch the whole thing and then find your way to do it in your way. Don't try and dance like me or move like me. That's my stuff, in my distressed moment. Find your way to be you in movement. Find how your body processes whatever you're feeling. Do it in your way. So it might be that you're in a total sort of state like this. This is where I was at, but it took me a while to get there. If you're actually there already, if you're already sort of freaking out, then you might just move like this immediately. But if you're like me and it was more that you're sort of deeply disturbed down inside yourself, for me this was a better way to begin. Just began still and getting a sense of my body. I knew that I was really rattled deep down inside myself, but I couldn't kind of get to it straight away. So I just began like this. It's a good way to begin, just slow, gentle, getting a sense of yourself physically. And then as you begin to move, your movement can just help that tuning in process to get a sense of where you're at. Let the movement of your body give you a stronger sense of how you feel emotionally. Listen inside yourself. You see all this tension in my body, in my movement. Maybe it's like that for you. Maybe you feel a lot of tension and let it shape you. And I'd strongly recommend that as well as your movement, you are aware of your breath and breathe deeply. Breathe right in, like your whole body's breathing. And once you've got a sense of how you feel, let that feeling find expression through your movement. It's like you're turning up the heat and the intensity and letting the feelings really get to you. Struggle with them. If you're having a difficult time, find a way to embody that struggle, that painfulness. Let your breath be a big part of your practice. Open your mouth. Let your breath come out like fire. Make sound. Shout. Swear. Cry aloud. Whatever it takes to let your feelings out. At some point, things are going to build up to a kind of catharsis. It might come in several waves, actually. You might have several kind of moments of feeling like everything's just rushing through you, and there's a kind of overwhelm, but not in a negative sense, just a big release. It's different from just expressing the feelings. It's more like releasing the energy. It's a catharsis. And if fear is a big component of what you're feeling, there's a kind of trembling, shaking that's actually physiologically totally natural for us mammals, as a way to release all that adrenaline-based energy so it doesn't get stored in your system. So you can't let go of or get rid of fear, nor would you want to if you're intelligent. It's your warning system to let you know when you're in danger or in trouble. But you can use this kind of shaking, trembling movement to let go of specific fearful moments and experiences. You literally allow your body to let go. And as you move through that catharsis, at some point you'll come out on the other side with a sense of yourself that is different than it was before. And the way that you are as you emerge from that cathartic experience is so different on different days. You might feel incredibly vulnerable and just want to fall to the floor and hold yourself, or you might feel exhilarated and empowered, or you might feel even humorous about your own situation and life. But however it shows up for you on any particular day, once you've been through that let go, catharsis, then you're into the juicy bit where you get to sense your own truth in a deeper way. And there's the possibility of creative, empowered response to your life situation. And I encourage you to just trust whatever comes and let your energy rise and fall and keep changing, and be open to the unexpected. Maybe your movement becoming very gentle and quiet, and then suddenly another flurry comes and you want to shout aloud and celebrate or curse, and stay with the body. See, that's where it's all going to come through. Stay with the feeling in your body and just let it keep unfolding. Let your body keep showing you how you are, changing moment to moment. See, the truth is you're a force of nature. And like nature, you just keep changing. And you have all kinds of colors and shapes and possibilities. So you keep letting the feelings, the emotional feelings, come through as physical sensations and movements. It all comes through your body. Notice your body. Keep letting the breath come deep and full. Just trust whatever comes. Be a creative force. Find your power. Even fear, which we're generally so judgmental of as being a fundamentally bad feeling and disempowering, it's only disempowering if you resist it, suppress it, avoid it. If you totally surrender to it, there's an immense amount of energy in there. It's fuel for creative action. All your feelings are. It's all fuel for creative action. If you allow the feelings to flow through your body, find expression, and you surrender to your own state of being as totally as you can, some sense of creative empowerment will come through you. You've got a purpose in the world. There's something that's calling you. You've got something to offer. And as you come through towards the end of this process, or really at any time through the process actually, you might find yourself at some point suddenly knowing what you need to do. Have a conversation with that person, or write that poem, or help that person next door. Listen for those little nuggets of insight and inspiration and information. Maybe write them down so you don't forget them once you've finished moving. So your movement opens you up to your feelings, and your feelings open you up to your knowing of what's true and what's needed and what you have to offer. Notice the space around you. Relate to your environment. Ah, there's that seagull. I wondered if that would show up on the camera. Breath is the great connector. It will connect your sense of physicality with your emotional nature, with your consciousness. Stay present. All the way. All the time. Naturally, you will find yourself having a sense that, this is coming to an end. And when that's so, don't rush. Don't rush. Savor the whole process. Let the movements slow down. You may find movements getting very subtle. Stay present. At some point, you'll feel like, okay, I'm done. And I'd strongly suggest you let yourself pause in a shape that just feels good and true, like you're in integrity. Your body, your heart, your mind are all like one shape. This is me. Here I am right now. And again, don't rush to end. Savor the ending. It may feel good to stay still and quiet for a long time and let all the movement settle, integrate within you. Don't rush. Give yourself space. I hope that was useful. And last but not least, I want to name one other resource that I find so incredibly helpful, especially in dark times, which is to notice what's beautiful. That's partly why I ended in a shape that had some kind of, that felt beautiful and healthy and whole. Like, notice what's beautiful. Find things to appreciate. And say it out loud, oh God, I so appreciate the sun on my skin right now. Or grateful, I'm so grateful for the sun on my skin and the way that feels on the back of my neck. Be as specific as you can to notice what you appreciate and what you're grateful for. The more detailed, the better. And say it out loud. And if you have someone to say it to, even better still. Or just write it down. That's another thing you might want to do, actually. That's another resource. When you've done a movement practice like that, you might want to have some paper and pen and just journal. Just stream of consciousness. Write what comes. Let your body write, or let your heart write. So it's not too kind of neat and ordered, and doesn't have to be sane, you know, just like write like a crazy poet, and let yourself spill out in that way too. That's another great resource. But yeah, speaking to people, telling people what you appreciate about them. I appreciate you for watching this video to the end. If you were here, I really would. I would say that very genuinely. I appreciate you for watching right through to the end. And I'm grateful that you're interested enough in what I have to give, you know, because we all have something to give, and this is what I have to give. For better or worse, I've had a kind of messy, crazy life, and movement has been my lifeline. Meditation has been my lifeline. And I am grateful to be able to give something, and I'm grateful to you for watching. Go well. Good luck. Good choices.